What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, taking a look at kind of like a different video. This is what I hope happens in the upcoming ban list. I think that this one's going to be, when it comes to the TCG, much harsher than the way that the OCG did it. They're obviously like way ahead format wise. They've gone through like two lists of tier, and it's even like still a problem. But I don't know. I don't like to judge it completely and say like, oh, we just need to follow the OCG because the formats are like drastically different. So if I could do the hits of Tearlament, and it's crazy to look at this list, like just to see how ridiculous this is. I've never been a part of a tier 0 format because I started playing when COVID hit, and I really just started learning about the game when like Firewall, like FTKs were out. And that's kind of like where I was introduced to the game. So since then, there really hasn't been any tiered 0 formats, and there's been like 2-3 decks, but that's like normal, and most people like those kinds of formats. This is obviously like I'm not a big fan. I don't really play too much paper Yu-Gi-Oh, but when you're playing online and you want to play ranked because you want to play people who are at least playing seriously, because when you play bad Yu-Gi-Oh players, like there's only so much satisfaction you can get out of it. Like when you play like super casual and you're playing like any half decent deck, you just kind of like blow them out every time. Like you want to play against someone who also plays a deck that's like kind of good. But when you play like rank now, you're playing, a select few decks, and most of them are just tier because that's what people are practicing on, and that's fair enough. There's obviously I have nothing against someone who is practicing because that's usually what these online simulators are for, but that's just normally how I play Yu-Gi-Oh, and you're either playing that and you're like, okay, well, I'll just go to casual and just kind of deal with what it is, and like most of the time people are just play testing Cash Tira, and Cash Tira is worse than I would rather play full powered Tearlament any day than play Cash Tier. I think it's the most annoying deck to play against. Just seeing your deck get banished and zones being taken. It's just so lame and just very unfun to play against. Tier at the very least can be fun. And I think that if you go through these, and maybe this is like too harsh of a list, I don't think the goal should be to like kill Tier. Because if people invest in the deck, I hate that Yu-Gi-Oh will just literally kill an archetype and then wait like 2 years for it to become playable again. Like Sky Striker, Like it's not doing anything right now, but at least it's a playable deck. I would never want to see like all of these cards get banned like super duper hard, like Dragon Rulers, but everybody kind of seems to think it's going that way. I doubt it, but a lot of these I think are going to follow the OCG. I'm not really sure where they're at, but this is what I would do. I think you get rid of Havness. The main problem with Tearlament is their ability to play during your turn, and there's already other ways to do it, but of course, like this is going to be one of the main ways. When your opponent activates a monster effect, obviously you're going to be doing that, and then suddenly, your opponent's off to the races. I think this is one of the cards that needs to go, and more than anything, there just needs to be less names that you can like physically hit in the deck, and I think this is the best one that you can do when it comes to like straight out banning cards. This is Kelbeck. The effect is okay, like when your opponent sends a card from deck to graveyard or hand to graveyard, that's cool and all, and it's a pretty good hand trap. It's not like the greatest thing in the world ever, but it obviously does have its function. But of course, like the main reason it's being banned, or I hopefully banned, honestly, I hope this card goes, is that it sends 5 cards to the graveyard. And of course, that's the action of all of this. That's the biggest problem. Being able to send half of your deck, shuffle it back, and then send it again. Like, that's just very much not good. So I hope that this, of the sent 5s, is the one that gets banished. I don't even think this one's that far of a stretch. I don't even know what they're waiting so far for, in the OCG. I think this is ridiculous. It's a continuous spell. It searches you on. So it's a search spell that pops card that is good for, disrupting your opponent. It's good for your plays. It's all just kind of too good. Like, field spells shouldn't do this much in one card. Like, you'd think this card would be pulled out into 2, like a normal spell and a continuous spell, but it's not, and I think that's the issue. I think it's time for this card to go. I think it's just annoying when you see it, right? You stop your opponent, and there's like, okay, activate Palarino, and you're just like, well, I guess I just have to scoop now, because there's really nothing I'm going to be able to do after that. And I think that when you get rid of this card, there's going to be less names, right? Banning Havness, this card's banned. As long as it consistently can get hit, right? As long as their mills are always, like, insanely good, and, like, I think that's something that you can do. A limited, I think that you could start with Mudora. I think that you can also limit a yugioh. I think you limit, so you have the biggest problem like with Medora most of the time is that it's discarding one of the cards that sends 5, and then you get advantage off of it, and then you can shuffle back. Like, all those things are good. I think you should only be able to shuffle back once. I think you should only be able to send 5 once, and I think that, when you're limiting it, obviously, there's a chance you don't hit it versus, like, all of these being at 3 now, mill 5, mill 5, mill 5, they kind of just, tag along with each other. And then obviously you have the shuffle back cards that just put all the good cards back. So when you shuffle, you can just keep doing it over and over again. So limiting one of the shuffle and having its usability in the hand be much worse if you're not playing like a pure Earth Fairy deck, but like still having one available, I think is like decent in and of itself. And then of course just like getting rid of it, right? You don't want to get rid of all the Send 5s because you don't want to destroy the archetype. At least I don't. And I think that's a good way to do it. Miru, or Murley, excuse me, Miru, I was looking at the name. Murley, I think is just one of those, like, of the ones remaining, like, I don't want to limit Rhino Heart because how many other decks have a, like, on normal effect summon, effect that helps your archetype? That's like every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has that. And I don't think Rhino Heart should be, like, it's like the most average name of all of them. So I think you let that and have that be like their main play starter, and it leaves them impervious to like Imperm, Effect Veiler, and all of that. So this is just another one of those names that is good. And the other thing is, like, if you can stop this, well, you only have 2 names, right? You can stop this name. They have to find the other one to use the effect. And I think that's pretty, like, a good way to at least slow down the engine. And it's easier to play against, right? DD Crow becomes, like, significantly better. Bystials, of course, are already pretty good. And Kick Kalos. This card was banned in the OCG. Searching, sending 5, being able to do it all over again for bigger boss monsters is just too big of an issue in my opinion, and the OCG already did it. I think we should follow suit. There's too many send cards to the graveyard right now, and it doesn't need to be attached to your play starter. That is just too good of an effect in the way that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played. Considering how fast Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, this is just simply too much, too fast. So I think it needs to be banned. I don't know if, like, there needs to be much other hits. Maybe I'm just like super ignorant, or maybe this is like way too harsh too. I'm not sure, but let me know what you guys think about this format, about my specific ban list for Tearlaments in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.